Hello, interwebs, and welcome to the Frak, this podcast. I am your bespeckled host, Jesse Gender, and I am joined, as always, by...
It's Vera! And a lovely speckling it is.
I am very speckled. You haven't mentioned it. We've been chatting for like 20 minutes or so before we started recording. You haven't mentioned I have new glasses.
And they are very nice glasses. Mm-hmm. The blue frames suit you very well.
They do. I'm curious. I'm trying to figure out how exactly I feel about them because they're slightly bigger frames than my old ones. So I'm like, they're a little bit bigger, which I like seeing better. Because they're brand new prescriptions, like just slightly hair better and a few other things, and like actually nicer frames and nicer lenses. Because the last ones I bought were when I had no insurance and money. So like these are much better on every level. However, I just don't know how I feel about the look just yet. But I'm trying to decide is it different? And I'm like weirded out by it being different, or do I like it less? That's the question.
So here's what I'm gonna say, and you can decide for yourself if this is a good thing or a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're a little bit more librarian than your old frames.
That's a compliment in my book. So
okay, then.
I'll take it. It works with the vest look that I kind of do then.
Yes. Those are gonna play very well with your vest.
All right, good. Then that works just fine for me. All right, I will take that as a good thing. I take librarian as very much a compliment. So as
you should, but I wasn't gonna presume.
Mm-hmm. No, well, I'm glad for that. So yeah, it's new speckles today, which makes me excited. So how are you, Vera?
I'm doing okay. Lost a chunk of the morning to a migraine, and other than that, just trying to stay ahead. You know, it's so. There's this part of your brain that goes, oh, like when I'm ahead on work, I'll be able to relax a little. No, you're working just as hard so that you maintain the lead that you have. Because I'm several weeks ahead on videos for the main channel. I'm not relaxing because I'm like, I need to keep that
going.
Lead I now
keep going.
have.
Yeah, I'm
never slowing down. God damn it.
Yeah. No, I'm at the same thing where I'm still working very hard, but I'm behind on everything because I'm working on several side projects behind YouTube. So like my backlog of YouTube videos is starting to get fed. And I'm like, oh no, I actually have to be running to get both things done. And it's like, I'm like excited to be done with this big project that I'll have done. But then I'm like, all right, as soon as I finish that, then I'm gonna have to rush to try and get ahead on everything else. The work never ends, Vera. The work never ends.
I know.
We're just gonna work until we die. It's fun times. Welcome to capitalism. I love it.
I've been doing this longer than you. I ain't slowed down yet, so
I just want to slow down, Vera. I just want to
I know.
I just want to sleep, Vera, please.
You'll sleep when you're dead.
I just need to do what I've been researching on the Star Trek for, where everyone was on fucking cocaine all the goddamn time. I found I'm doing for unnamed project. Listeners can guess what it is at this point, but who cares? I've been doing a lot of like reading about like behind the scenes on Star Trek and stuff, and I found this book that came out last year. It's by the assistant to Gene Kuhn, who's one of the executive producers, and it's one of those like, I don't give a fuck, everyone's dead now books. And it's like, yeah, no, everyone was like high on cocaine and fucking all the time, and a little bit sexist and a lot of bit racist.
I mean, we're talking 60s, 70s, 80s TV production.
60s Hollywood.
Yeah. So yeah, they
no, none of it's shocking. It's just one of those.
They
like,
were on
woo!
speed. They were on coke.
Yeah.
Some of them were on LSD.
Yeah, no, it's just interesting to be one of those moments where it's like, I knew it, but just hearing the stories of like, yeah, Devil in the Dark, or like, some of your favorite Star Trek episodes, that was written by a dude who locked himself in the room with like a brick of cocaine. And then he came out with a Star Trek script.
Yep. I'm like, although the person I think about when I think about having been very productive on cocaine is Stephen King.
Yeah.
Because there's two, and I might be slightly misquoting him, but there's two quotes of his that I always remember, at least the heart of them, even if I get the exact wording wrong. There was the time that he directed a movie adaptation of one of his things. Movie's called Maximum Overdrive, and he said in hindsight, yeah, cocaine made that movie. And the other one is when he talked about Cujo.
Oh, God.
And he's like, That was a really good book. I wish I could remember writing it.
Yeah, I love that. The only because a few years ago I did a Dark Tower read, and I had never read Stephen King, so I was like, all right, I'll use this as an excuse to like I'll read the Dark Tower, but I'll read all the books that tie into the Dark Tower decently directly.
So that's like almost everything he's written.
Yeah, it's a decent chunk. Like it's a significant amount of books, but it was a good, like it wasn't everything. He's written so much that don't necessarily, like he has themes that like vaguely do, but I was like, all right, a character appears in the Dark Tower, so I'll read that. Or like there's a very clear like part of the Dark Tower that comes in here, I'll read that. If it's just like a vague allusion to the Dark Tower, I was like, all right, whatever. But it was like but even then it was a lot, and it was like a good it was a good like taster board of like charcuterie board of Stephen King. And I really kind of enjoyed it. It was actually a very enjoyable like reading experience. However, there was one book, the book that was the worst one to read of that whole experience was a book called Insomnia. And it was very much I was high on cocaine the entire time writing this book. Because it was like the guy starts seeing weird people, like messing with people. He can't sleep for whatever. And when you do sleep, there's like people like shoving things in your brain, and like the sentences make no sense. And it just starts going off on like weird tangents at certain points. I'm like, yeah, this book was definitely written by a man very high on cocaine, and not in like a I'm being super productive writing, more in a yeah, I should probably stop the cocaine because I'm not thinking in a reasonable way anymore. Sort of
in that I haven't slept in 76
yes,
hours.
Exactly.
Kind of way.
There's a reason it's called Insomnia. So it was the most, like, the ideas were actually not terrible. It was just one of those like, oh boy, he just kept writing. This is a 200-page book stretched out to 700 pages. So yeah. So. Anyways, well, maybe if you do too much cocaine, people will kick you out of your house and you won't be able to go home again. And speaking of which, we're talking about today, on the Frak This podcast, the episode of Battlestar Galactica titled, You Can't Go Home Again. But before we get to that episode, I forgot to have it already pulled up because I did want to actually read some listeners' comments from the last episode. What the feck? I tried to combine fuck and frack, and it turned out to be feck. What the feck?
What the feck? It just sounds like a weird accent. What the feck, dude?
Break Room Geeks, like, what the feck is your secondary channel where you put this? Because I meant to have it pulled up, but I did not here. So let me pull up the comments.
The funny thing is, like, between the migraine and what I've been working on since, I actually haven't looked at the comments.
Oh, there's some good ones.
At anything that went up today, it'll be a surprise to me too.
So there's a few good ones here that I wanted to call it. So this is about the episode Bastille Day. So this is the one with Tom Zarek and the prisoner riot from a few weeks ago that we listened, or a couple weeks ago we discussed. So one comment is from RM Loner, who we've had before, said Callie was supposed to be killed here, but then they decided her biting the guy's ear off made her too interesting for that, so they added the scene confirming her survival. Usually I'd say this kind of avoiding fridging is a very good thing, but considering what we now know about this particular actress, maybe getting rid of her this early would have been better.
Is there something I don't know?
Oh, so I looked into it a little bit after I read this comment. So she got involved in one of those like MLM, like weird, like culty group things that were like, they had sex trafficking and stuff. And evidently she didn't do any, but she defended the guy publicly who did it, for many, many years after the fact. So, like, that's her, unfortunately. But yeah, Callie does stick around, like, and it's interesting that they were gonna kill her here. But yeah,
issues of the actress aside, from a strictly writing standpoint, I'm glad they didn't kill her, because wow, would that have pissed me the fuck off.
Oh yeah, that would have pissed me off too. Like, I think it's the correct decision.
I already hated all of that.
No, I agree completely. It was the right choice, and actually, I'm going to be curious. I'm going to say this codedly. Callie's a character that I remember when I first watched the show annoying the shit out of me in the later storyline that they give her. However, looking back on it and just like remembering the outline of the story, I'm like, I'm wondering if it wasn't that she annoyed me, or if it was just a little bit of that internal misogyny that you put towards certain women characters who speak up against certain dude characters. So I'm wondering if there's a little bit of internalized misogyny shit going on when I watched it for the first time. I'm curious to see how well I'll read that storyline later on. So, yeah,
we'll see.
We'll get there. That's as vague as I'll stay for now. Listeners will kind of know what I'm referring to. We'll kind of get there. Okay, another comment, actually from Loner again. Loner, you make really interesting comments. The quote, "You think she's a real blonde" thing is a meta joke on how Katie Sackhoff really is blonde, Patricia Helfer isn't, and needed an intensive dyeing process that she hated and got replaced with a wig after the first season.
Huh. That's kind of funny.
And actually, this is from someone else. CM Mosher 8035 said Sackhoff had Helfer on her podcast, and the dyeing process was so horrible that her hair started falling out. Sounded like a god awful situation for her. So yeah, women's hair. People don't.
Yeah.
That's the other thing on the original Star Trek was like women's hair was always a fucking issue. That was like there was even like a memo that said, well, if we want to save money on Star Trek, we'll hire less women because we want to spend money on their hair. Because I guess, like, women's hair is the big problem and not, like, the alien costumes. Anyways, it's a common Hollywood issue.
Yeah, naturally. I mean, yeah, I was trying to think, like, why would that be worse than just a standard, bleaching of hair? But then it occurred to me, like, they want it to look like she's a natural blonde, so there can't be roots.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, like, once
day.
a week. That's like every shooting day touching up with frickin' bleach. Okay, yeah, fair.
Yeah,
fair to hate that.
Glad they went up with the wig. Okay, so I'm gonna say this one. Christina Hamilton Racing says, whenever Vera does sexy voice to Jesse, the nervous laugh makes it seem like we're hearing actual harassment. At my old office, a dude used to do that to all the women, and it got so creepy, but the most we did was laugh just like Jesse is doing here because we didn't want to cause a scene. So I'm reading that comment just to make very clear that I have consented completely to Vera doing the voice. Yes, I am embarrassed, but it is consensual embarrassment. It's not harassment. Vera is totally fine with me.
That having been said, I'm not going to stop. Like, I'm not going to pretend that I'm not going to lie to you. But I will say that I am legitimately sorry if this interaction that Jesse and I do has brought up unpleasant memories. I don't want that for anybody. But, fair warning, I'm still going to do it because, as she said, and I've rechecked this intermittently.
She has repeatedly checked in with me just to let everyone know. The reason I read the comment is for exactly that reason. Like, I want to be very clear. All of this is consensual. We're just having fun. It is meant to just be a joke and have a fun time. So
it's worth reiterating. I actually can't remember if like we made that clear since starting doing Battlestar.
Yeah, I don't know. We might not have.
Yeah, that's probably something we should have made clear before.
Yes, it's just part of our dynamic. So Vera is a bitch, but not for that reason. All right, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. There's a couple here, but it leans into spoilers. So there's some stuff about Tom Zarek's upcoming storylines that I'll leave off, but I did read them just to let people know. She gave me a point, listeners, just to let everyone know.
No, I didn't.
Oh, no, I thought you just did. Though, speaking of points...
No, I'm getting it on hand in case I need it.
Well, speaking of points, this is the last comment I did want to read. Hunter Coney, I apologize if I said it wrong, but Hunter Coney says, I found the nebulous freedom points quite funny. Work for us. You'll earn freedom points we just made up, and at some point, you might be able to redeem your freedom points for your freedom. How many points will you earn? How many will you need? How often are we going to give you the opportunity to earn points? Who knows? But you definitely want these freedom points.
I mean, like, it is pretty funny and telling that, like, we can have them earn freedom points towards their freedom, but, like, nobody stops and goes, like, okay, can we actually work out this system? No, we'll just promise them freedom points.
You get freedom points. Who doesn't want freedom points? You got to get your freedom points now, everybody. Sign up. It does kind of remind me to, like, it's... I mean, I can't think of specific examples, but I remember hearing there are stories of people being like, if you work on in this prison, you'll get points to earn freedom or whatever. Like, that's a thing that has come up repeatedly as a dynamic, but it's always nebulous and just used to get people to work harder for no pay in slavery or in prisons, which is also a form of slavery, but regardless.
I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if part of your sentence is labor, and you're not doing that voluntarily, or even if you are doing it voluntarily under the coerced system, yeah, that's effectively slavery. And the first person to pipe up and go, well, they get paid literally pennies per hour. Shut the hell up.
And you could even argue, I mean, there's a concept called wage slavery, where it's even if you're getting paid, you're still considered, you're being elicited to work for a system that you would not otherwise do in certain ways. So
Yep.
Anyways, on that happy note, let us actually get into the recap of this episode. Again, it is You Can't Go Home Again. Not the Who song. Won't Get Fooled Again, just to be very clear. I don't know, it's just what I think about every time I hear this title. I've been like, won't go home again, even though that's not how the song actually goes. This is CSI Battlestar, Anywho.
See, I hear the phrase "can't go home again," and the quote that I always think of is from Grosse Point Blank. Have you ever seen that movie?
Yes, but years ago.
He tries to go back to his childhood home, and there's a convenience store there, and he calls his therapist.
Oh, I do remember that. That's the one about the assassin, right?
Yeah. And he calls his therapist, and he's like, "Well, you can't go home again, but I guess you can shop there."
That's a good line.
It's a good movie. I'm overdue to rewatch
it. It is a good movie. It was a suggestion from a friend of mine who passed away that I watched it. So maybe I should watch it. He passed away since I've seen it. So anyways, it's all right. Let us get into the recap. We start off with Boomer and Crashdown rescuing Hot Dog, and Hot Dog has vomited when he gets picked up, but he is rescued. And Adama begins interrogating him, or not interrogating him, asking him questions when he gets back on the ship. They sort of figure out that Starbuck is probably still alive because he saw her ship still doing maneuvers as it sort of got out of his sight. So Adama starts beginning a search for Starbuck, and Apollo goes over and gives Hot Dog his little wings, the symbol that he's an actual pilot on the ship.
Yeah.
So we also have Apollo and
if we actually stop and think for a second, you disobeyed a direct order. Here's your wings.
Mm-hmm.
Because he did. He was told to go back and he didn't go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. It's true. But he did go out there and probably saved her life, more than likely.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. But I'm just thinking, I understand appreciating what he did, but, you are rewarding him for disobeying a direct order.
Hopefully that won't come up as a problem at all with Hot Dog. Totally be on the straight and narrow as a character.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. We then have a quick scene where Apollo talking to one of the engineers, and Apollo sort of telling him, I polish up my canopy, I want it crystal clear. You need to get out there right now. And Adama goes and tells Apollo, find her. So they have a kind of a little moment together.
Yeah. I mean, you can already tell, especially for Adama, that this is deeply personal.
Mm-hmm. Yep, very much so. We jump down to the, I was going to say planet. It's technically, we later learn, is a moon. So we cut down to Starbuck on the moon that she crashed on. And she's getting dragged by her parachute over the terrain, during which she, hits her leg at one point. And she has to cut herself loose from her parachute. And
they make a... I'll see if this comes up in future episodes, but they make an oddly big deal out of her banging her knee.
Mm-hmm.
Which, first of all, not to downplay knee injuries, but, given everything she's already been through, being dragged along at a not especially fast pace by this parachute and having your knee bump a rock, they needed a decent crunch sound effect there to sell that, because it does not look like it merits the focus given on it.
I agree, actually, because I'm going to be honest, I don't remember or not. I recall an injury that comes up with Starbuck at some point in the series, but I'm like, is this the one or is it later? I don't remember, so I will see if it does come back up. But I agree with you, because I remember seeing her leg get crunched in that scene. I'm like, oh, that didn't seem so bad. I think she could, get around just fine from that. It didn't seem like a big problem until she started limping later on. I'm like, oh, I guess it is an issue.
Yeah, the hit looked like the kind of thing that would suck if you already had a knee injury.
Yeah, it was one of those probably a good bruise, but nothing destructive overall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, We then cut to Gata informing Adama about the search. They can't find her on Dradis, aka Radar, so they need more pilots. And Adama sort of says everyone who can fly, go out and look for her, and they need to start guessing where she is because they don't really have a firm idea on it. So one of the things they realize is that, and this is, again, guesses, and this kind of goes to what Adama's personality with this, which I found interesting, which is Gata sort of says, well, she probably got captured by one of the gravity bodies, and if she got pulled into the gas giant, she's dead, because the gas giant would just fry her. And then the moon, if she got pulled into the moon, she might have survived, so they already assumed that she's on the moon without any real evidence.
Yes, which is never brought up again.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, it's kind of odd to me because if either the show or any of the characters who are later going to push back on Adama for how long this is taking, it's odd to me that nobody brings up the fact that, like, you don't even know that she's there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was your first major assumption that you just rolled with because the other option meant she's definitely already dead.
Mm-hmm.
So it is odd to me that nobody brings up the fact that they are expending all these resources when they aren't even sure if she is there.
Yep, that was one thing. I liked the idea of it to be like, all right, well, we have to assume she's there, otherwise she is dead. But that never comes
idea,
back. Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
that idea is fine. It's just so weird to me, given where the conflict points are going to be, that nobody circles back on that.
Yeah. But I do like it. It's Adama sort of like, being in the weird Adama way of being hopeful. You know. So they also point out...
It's a very pragmatic way of handling this because, like, well, if it was the gas giant, she's dead and we can't do anything about it. So we just proceed as if that isn't the case, because if we're not going to give up, then we just need to assume that that isn't what happened.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's one of those things where he's like, we're not going to give up. I need to do something. And so that's going to be the path that's going to lead me to do nothing. So I have to do something. It kind of just speaks to where he's at. Is just like, I need to do something to try to save her, regardless of whether she's alive or not. So, but yes, we also learned that she has 46 hours and change with air left, or at least that's what their guess is. Adama also talks to Ty about the Cylons, and Adama sort of has this logic about the Cylons probably won't be coming for a while because the Cylons don't know for sure that they're here. This more than likely what they engaged was patrol. And so they'll search a lot of places that the patrol was on. There's a line like staking out watering holes in the desert is what Gata says is what they were what the Cylons were doing, like searching places that they were likely to be. And I do like this one point that like Ty says, then that'll mean it'll take them weeks to find us. And Adama says, assume they're better. It'll probably take them days. And Ty points
which
out,
is one thing that I like, because even with going in this unreasonably optimistic path that he's headed down, he still has his limits.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, he could have just gone with Ty's interpretation of, like, oh, we got plenty of time. But instead he's going, no, that is not an even vaguely reasonable assumption to make. So we're not going there.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I did like that. But he does call it an educated guess. And then he also tells people to go down below the cloud cover on the moon because they can't, like, they wouldn't be able to see anything otherwise. So they have to go really low.
Yep.
So, Adama then does get a call from Roslin, who sort of does the presidential thing of saying, "Hey, I'm happy you found your pilot, and we'll help. The fleet will help in any way we can to help you find the other pilot, and to find her." And then Adama sort of gets very strongly worded, says, "Frak the odds. We'll find her," and then sort of apologizes and says, "Thank you. We'll coordinate efforts." But it does sort of create a pause in the conversation when he says that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And then we get Baltar is in front of Roslin, but he's also talking to Head 6. And I wanted to point out, love 6's dress in this.
The blue, it's whew.
Yeah, I was like, damn, this is a great dress.
It's very blue, and there is not much of it.
I know. She also has like see-through what is it? Like high heel shoes. I was like,
yeah.
damn.
She had stripper heels.
Yeah, I was like, damn. All right. I don't really like, she has the famous red dress and everything. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. It looks nice. But I like this one. This one looked good. So.
Oh, it's a striking look.
Yeah.
Caught my attention.
Yes, very much so. But basically, she does her normal thing of getting Baltar an erection while he's in the room with someone else. But she basically points out, like, they're compromising the security of the fleet while we're searching for the pilot. How long will it take for the Cylons to get here and realize that they're missing a patrol? And Baltar seems to push back against this initially, but when he gets up to leave Roslin, he sort of goes back and sort of repeats the same points and sort of like presents it as his point of view to her of like, we're compromising the security of the fleet, and Roslin, for her part, like, they put their lives on the line for us every day. And, he's like, I'm not insensitive to that, but there are thousands of defenseless women and children. I just think of them so much.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So this scene is the one that pushes the furthest on the credibility of like the conversations he has with her, because like there was one point that I actually wrote down, okay, is he actually saying this stuff out loud? Because there's like, the show has been very good up to now that when he replies to her out loud, making it clear either that nobody is paying attention to him, so no one sees that he's talking to himself, or he talks in such a way that it could be interpreted as maybe not the most helpful or direct, but some sort of response to the other person in the room. This, on the other hand, like, granted, Roslin's on the phone, but she's also sitting directly across from him at a desk, facing him.
Yeah.
Like, I know they try and have her like looking to the side, but I'm like, he's talking. Or at least he appears to be. So if he's really saying any of this, and we know at the very least, he's really doing the physical motions towards Head 6 that he's doing, like, there is no way she doesn't hear it. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe she's not paying enough attention to understand what you're saying, but there's no way she doesn't hear you just talking to thin air.
I had the same exact reaction. I'm like, there's no way she's not hearing him. And it's weird that they don't play it that she she does. Like, she sees his hand movements that he's doing at one point that he kind of, like, plays off, but she doesn't react to him, like, talking at all. My headcanon, lols, of this is that everyone's just noticed for a long time that he talks to himself, and they're just like, yeah, he just does that. He's a weirdo like that. We're fine. It's fine. He'll come back at some point. So that's, yeah.
I mean, that's about the one thing that you've got, so yeah, sure.
Yeah, but I agree. This is the one that definitely pushes the most credibility on all of this.
Yeah, these scenes have balanced this issue a lot better prior to this one.
Yeah. It was not. It should have just been like he whispered more and his talking was a lot less.
I think that was the thing. Like, if he dropped his voice lower and like was trying to not move his lips very much, like to do it as innocuously, but he was just talking.
Yeah,
he's just like normal volume talking.
Well, we cut back quickly back down to Starbuck. She has patched up her suit. Her communicator, it looks like, is broken, and she says she needs to get to higher ground, which will make it more likely for them to see her. So she does that. We also have Apollo searching for her below cloud cover. Doesn't find her, but almost does hit a some rock, like a rock formation in front of him.
Which I actually really appreciate. This is like a really quick scene, but I appreciate them, like, because they kind of said it before. I appreciate them actually showing the fact that, like, we can't see through these clouds, but flying underneath them puts us at risk of crashing into frickin' mountains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially since you don't know the terrain at all on this moon. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Cut back to Cylon-occupied Caprica. And we have Hilo and Boomer. Boomer is sleeping, or like...
Tumor.
Yes, Tumor. Tumor is sleeping in a hammock, and Boomer, or Hilo, excuse me. They sort of talk about a possible plan of, like, we don't know if we're going to find anyone, so we just need to try and find a raptor to fly off Caprica. And Hilo's sort of like, yeah, it's weird. I've been starting to think of this place as home, but he says he's going to go make breakfast because we got enough supplies for right now. He's making toast, which is funny because it looks like the toaster looks like a Cylon.
Yeah, especially considering that it was in the miniseries that I think it was Baltar was like, I know what Cylons look like. They look like toasters.
Mm-hmm. I think it actually becomes a derogatory term they start using in this series too. They start calling them toasters.
Toasters.
I don't know if they've done so yet, but it is like a derogatory term.
No, it was just Baltar like making the general derogatory comparison.
Yeah. No, I think they do start calling them toasters at one point. It's like a derogatory Cylon thing. So it's kind of fun. Anyways,
robot racism.
Yay!
Complete with slurs.
Gotta love your slurs. It's a good time.
It's how you know you're doing your racism right.
Yep, that's sci-fi world building 101. You have your alternate swear word for fuck, and you have a slur word for an alien race.
Yeah.
Yep, those are basically the two things you need, and you've done a sci-fi. Anyways, Hilo starts making toast, but then a Cylon Centurion comes in, and he goes and hides, but unfortunately the toast goes off, and the Centurion spots him, and there's a little bit of a shootout. Boomer steps out at one point, like, in the middle of all of this, but Hilo gets knocked over and knocked out. Knocked over the counter and knocked out.
Yep.
All right, we have Starbuck again, and she's sort of, praying to the Lords of Cobalt, but in a very casual way. She's like, all right, Lords, if you can help me out, I could really use a lucky break, sort of thing. But then she comes up on a ridge, and she sees the Cylon Raider sitting there, the same Cylon Raider that crashed with her onto the planet.
Which I knew was going to happen eventually, because the show made a point of showing it, like, falling onto the moon when she did. So, like, I knew this was going to circle back around.
Yes, it had to. Me being a physics fucking nerd, I'm just like, well, A, why isn't it, like, sticking? If it was dead, like, why isn't it, like, it looked like it landed perfectly fine. Like, it's not, like, sticking out, like, one of the, like, pointy ends is sticking out of the ground or something. She's lucky of that. That it even survived in a form where it is. And then two, I'm just sort of like, they crashed pretty far apart above the moon. Like, how far did she fucking walk? Because, like, the chances of them being close to each other are pretty, actually, like, close on a relative scale of a moon.
Yeah.
But, like, that's still miles and miles. So.
No, that's
TV. That's me being a nitpicking asshole. So
that's narrative contrivance. Deal with it.
I know, but just one of those things. It's always one of those things where these are the weird nitpicks that if it's like a space, physics, or sci-fi thing, those are the weird things that always throw me. Does not throw anyone else. It's fine, but I get weirdly nitpicky about it. So just have to say it. Anyways, it doesn't ruin the episode at all for me. Just they're my weird nitpicks. Anyways, she goes up to the Cylon Raider, and it's bleeding out of the hole in its side.
I noted that immediately. I was like, what? Mm-hmm. So, like, my immediate assumption, because, like, there's a hole blasted in the side of it where she shot it. So my immediate thought is, okay, was there, like, one of the human Cylons in there and like, got blown apart and that's their blood? And then the other part of me because for a half second, I was like, wait, do the metal ones bleed? Then I'm like, no, they definitely don't, because Hilo blew a massive hole in one. We saw that a scene ago, and it didn't bleed. Mm-hmm. So that can't be it.
Mm-hmm. I always loved this piece of world building, that it's just very, very fascinating.
I mean, we'll get into why it's bleeding in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no,
I clocked that immediately. Was like, wait a goddamn minute.
Yeah, we'll get there. What I will say about this is, like, this is the reason I remember this episode. Like, I remember this episode specifically for all this stuff with the Cylon Raider, and I love it. Anyways, let's see. We then cut to Apollo running out of fuel, and he gets frustrated that he has to go all the way back to the Galactica to refuel, that there's not a tanker nearby for him. So he just gets kind of...
I mean, like, it's worse than that. There was a tanker nearby, but it went back to refuel because the tankers are empty for how long they've been doing this and how quickly they're burning through fuel in this atmosphere.
Yes. And we cut back to Adama getting an update on this about how fuel is being a problem. And Ty sort of suggests that they need to put the civilian ships into a defensible position just in case the Cylons show up. But Adama sort of pushes back. He says, we're committing the fleet and we leave no one behind. He gets sort of angry about that. So very clearly showing, like, how personally invested he is in.
And it was already clear that it was personal, but what's becoming clear at this point is how far outside of good protocol and good procedure he's willing to go over the fact that it's personal.
And I also really like, I mean, obviously we'll see it escalate and escalate, but I do like the small ways that it escalates constantly through. It's just like, oh, he's going to cloud cover, so put your pilot in danger. Somewhat reasonable thing to ask. But now it's like we're wasting a lot of fuel, and like it's just like slow escalations. It's not like he's instantaneously unreasonable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it makes sense as an escalation because, you know, he's not letting whatever the problems are diminish his intent to find her. But the problem is each layer of complication makes it less reasonable that he is not diminishing his intent to find her. So honestly, in a way, he never wavers. But as the system worsens and he continues to not waver, that immovability makes him unreasonable because the situation has shifted and he's refusing to shift with it.
Exactly. We then cut back to Caprica, where Hilo wakes up now at night on Caprica, and he basically finds Boomer's been taken. Doesn't know where she's at. Tumor's been taken, I should say. And he starts yelling in the middle of the street.
Yeah, that's a good tactic.
Oh, you know how the Centurions were just able to find us and were presumably nearby just a little short while ago? Let me just start yelling in the middle of the street. But yeah, what did you make of this development?
I mean, like, nothing really. Like, the thing is, like, it's not that it's a bad development. I don't want to imply that, but like, there's nothing for me to make of it. I know she's a Cylon, so I know this is like, for whatever reason, some weird kind of setup. And because I don't know the reason why she was tagging along with him and not killing him anyway, I also don't have reason to speculate on why she's doing this because I already didn't know why she was doing anything up to this point. So, like, I know what she's been doing, and I'm sure there is a reason. But because I don't know why she's doing what she's doing, this doesn't even, like, throw me for a curve and make me go, ooh, maybe I don't know what she's doing. I didn't know what she was doing before, and now I still don't know. Nothing has changed.
That's my thing with this. I forgot how long, like, we get little drip feeds of this storyline every episode. We get, like, a scene or two, and then we get the next scene or two. It takes a long time. Because I usually, like, I remember, like, because I started watching the show at, like, episode 6 or 7 when it first came out. Like, I think this is around when I started watching. I think last week's episode might have been the first, or maybe the week. Bastille Day, actually, I think was the first. But, like, you know, I was able to, like, binge a little bit more of it when I was younger. And then after that, I've always been able to binge it. So I forgot. And now we're taking, like, a week between each episode to watch them. So I'm just sort of like, yeah, let's get to the stuff. Let's get to the juice. We're not getting there yet. So.
No, I mean, like, it's not the worst thing in the world because, like, they are not sinking more time per episode.
Yeah, it's like a scene or two every episode
than they should be. But it does mean that if you're eager for answers on this, boy, you're gonna be waiting.
Yeah, very much so. All right. Well, we have Starbuck open up the Cylon from underneath and finds that it's got guts. She even says, "Are you alive?"
Yeah, like she opens up a panel of this thing, and it's basically just a block of meat.
Yeah.
That she sees in front of her.
Yeah.
And when she gets inside this thing, it's very Dalek.
Yeah, very much
honestly.
So. Yeah, I didn't even put that connection. I just like the body horror, like viscera shit of it.
Oh yeah, like that. There's that, but like just the notion of this thing that from the outside just looks like it would be wholly mechanical, but inside is just this gooey, goopy mess. I was immediately like, oh, that is incredibly Dalek.
But I love it though. It's cool. That's some cool shit.
For folks listening and or watching who don't follow my other stuff, that is the iconic Doctor Who villain. And to look at it, it looks like an odd sort of like robot, almost like a proto R2-D2 with a plunger on it, except that what's inside are these deeply, horribly mutated just masses of brain and tentacle and one huge eyeball.
I always love the huge eyeball. It's the huge eyeball. You would make a good Dalek. The Daleks are everyone's second favorite fictional fascists.
What's their first?
Stormtroopers, probably the Empire.
Oh, fair.
Yeah. What are some other fictional fascists? There's them. There's the Daleks. mirror universe, I guess, too. Terran Empire. So
yeah, I mean, like, any sci-fi or fantasy evil empire is probably fascist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or at the very least fascist adjacent, because they're going to be expansionists and colonialists.
Yeah.
Which doesn't necessarily mean fascist, but they tend to go together.
Yes. Listeners, tell us what your favorite fictional fascists are in the comments. Let us know.
We're going to have a competition. America's next top fascist, aside from the ones already
I was going to say, we're
charge.
already playing that game, Vero. We're well on our way there.
America's next top fictional fascists.
Yeah.
I'm especially looking forward to the swimsuit portion of the competition.
Oh, boy. I mean, Mussolini would win that one. He did the swimsuit all the time. Anyways, God, this got dark. Say what you will about the Cylons. They're not fascists, damn it. At least not all of them are. We'll get there. Anyways,
I don't know. I don't know what they are. I don't know yet.
Anyways, we then cut to.
They seem to be potentially theocratic. Actually,
I'm not gonna say anything about it. Yeah, they're potentially theocratic. Yeah, all we basically know about them at this point is they are willing to commit genocide, and some of them, at the very least, have religious views. So.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. All right. And some of them got guts. We cut back to Apollo talking to Chief Tyrrell. Apollo is angry that his Viper is down, and Chief's like, look, you can push people a lot more than you can push machines. Like, I got to fix it. And he's like, just get it. I want to be out there. Push it further. So Apollo is also clearly getting wrapped up in this as well.
Just a little bit.
Just a teensy tiny bit. Speaking of which, we then cut to Ty, Adama, and Apollo sort of trying to make plans. Adama's like, they need to do better. And Apollo sort of argues, like, we need to pull the cap, which Ty says is the only thing that's defending the fleet. And they said, well, we'll just bring the fleet closer to the moon. And Ty points out Starbuck would be the first one to tell you not to do this, which I think he's correct on. And Apollo then confronts Ty as like, nothing would make you happier. You would just love to leave her behind, the foul-mouthed one who's always standing up to your authority. And Ty, and again, I think quite rightly says, I am not the one confusing personal feelings with duty. And Apollo grabs him at that point. And Adama stops this and like pulls him aside and sort of tells Apollo, find our girl, get as many birds up in the air as you need. So he breaks the tension, but he does side with Apollo. What I will say about this scene that I really like, besides just showing, Apollo starting, like, two things. One, it's showing Adama and Apollo are at the same place, but Adama's, he's emotional and personal in this, but he's got that, like, military demeanor of, like, he's not showing it even if he agrees. And Apollo's just more the young kid of, his emotions are right on the surface. Which I kind of I liked seeing the dichotomy between the two of them, like they're lockstep in their what they want and what they're doing, but like the youth versus age sort of difference playing out there. And then also, I do like the nuance they give Ty, because it would be very easy to show Ty as just an authoritarian, like a dictatorial type, and never give him any sort of like empathy or nuance as a character, to show him as a drunk who always hates other people. But like it comes across here as like Ty's not unempathetic, but he is being practical, and he's not. And he's not being cruel about it. Like, I like that Ty gets to be practical and actually the one in the right here, even though he's like a character that would be easy to characterize otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of circles back to what happened in Bastille Day, which was that, like, when Starbuck made her argument for why she should go on the team, because they don't, you have Marines, but you don't have a sniper, and I'm the best shot you've got. And he's like, I hate to say it, but she's right. And I said at the time, like, Ty does not like her at all, but he doesn't let his dislike for her blind him to reality, and he's willing to admit that she's right because she's right. And similarly here, Adama Lee is right. He does hate her, and probably would be happier if she were gone, but that's not why he's saying this. He is the one just dealing with the facts as they are.
Yeah, it goes back to the other line he said to Starbuck, which, like, we'll see if this remains to be true throughout the series.
Yeah.
But he did have that line to her, is like, my problems are personal, yours are professional. And I would argue, like, as is presented here, like, Ty has done like, clearly he was drinking on the job and had issues in, back in the miniseries when the stakes weren't high and then they escalated. But he's pulled himself together pretty decently and seems to be fairly professional, if not well-liked. Like, you'd argue with his leadership style, but he does seem to be fairly professional about it, at least at this point. So, which I do like. Because not a he's not a person that I would like in real life, but like I do appreciate the nuance they give him here. So,
you can think someone's a bad person, but they're still good at their job.
Yeah, I don't even think he's a bad person. I just think he's a person, just an asshole. So
I put those in the same zip code.
The same zip code. I don't know. You can be an asshole without necessarily being a bad person.
It's hard.
It's how. I guess it's how you qualify the word bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let
me put it this way. When I say bad, I think like immoral person. You can be an asshole without necessarily being immoral, I guess.
Okay, fine. I'll grant you that.
Yeah. I guess that would be the qualifiers. My line on bad, but yeah. So.
Yeah, we do not need to parse.
Do you want to start? Let's have this philosophical debate.
What makes a bad person?
I don't know. I let me put it this way. I've known some people who are assholes, but they were my asshole, and I would be fine with setting them loose on other people, sort of thing. So it's like, yeah, you're an asshole, but you're my asshole. So
I have a name,
I wasn't gonna say it. No, you're not my asshole. You're my bitch. I said that with such confidence.
Almost. You got through about half the word bitch before it just all crumbled.
I was like, should I say it?
It
No.
was an impressive amount of confidence for such a brief leading amount of time.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But I love that little spark, that little bit of fight.
I hate you so much.
It's what makes this fun.
Yeah, sure. Now I'm actually getting very red. Anyways, I consented, everybody, just to be clear. We come back to Starbuck, and she's sort of like talking to herself a little bit because obviously we need her to have dialogue. But she's sort of saying the only thing flying you is you, so she's figuring out that like this thing is alive and is not piloted by anyone. And she finds its brain and literally pulls out its brain. Which I love body horror shit like that. It's fun.
It's very squelchy.
Very squelchy brain. And she's like, you don't need that anymore. I'll use it. I'll run it for you. And she starts to look for how it breathes because she needs air. So.
And I like the way that she words this because my automatic thing, like, how were you breathing? My automatic thing was like, why would you assume it's breathing? But like she has this little quick throwaway line, like even a cockroach needs to breathe. Mm-hmm. So like it does make it actually not only a reasonable assumption on her part, but I think reasonable that, if the Cylons have developed anything that is somewhat biologically based, mm-hmm. biological life as we know it, and in theory, the Cylons, if they are creating biological aspects of themselves, would be basing it off the biology that they know, which is us and other carbon-based life forms. Yeah, they still need oxygen. Now, it still could have been possible that it was oxygen in a form she couldn't absorb. It might not have been air, could have been liquid, could have been any number of other things. But it is actually reasonable that this thing needs oxygen.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think if I should. I'm sorry, I was just debating. No, that's for spoiler minute. There's some spoiler minute stuff in there. I'll let your words stand, but listeners, I have thoughts.
Okay.
Anyways, we then cut to Apollo getting a call from Roslin. And she's sort of like, we've redeployed the Cap, but doesn't that mean that we're defenseless? And she also learns that Apollo is the one who suggested it, which kind of surprises her.
Because she thought that like she was going to get him to fill her in on what his father was doing, mm-hmm. only to immediately realize, you are neck deep in this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And yeah, even though Apollo tries to play it down, like she starts figuring out, it's like, were you close with Thrace? Do you, Is that true for your father? And Apollo tries to downplay it as like, no, the safety's not been compromised. Yes, I'm close with all of my pilots, but she can kind of, she doesn't say it, but we can kind of get the idea that she's seeing through the bullshit that Apollo's putting up.
It ain't hard to see through.
Mm-hmm.
It is translucent bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. So we then cut to Adama on the bridge, and he's watching the timer go down to 0. The timer
keeping track of how much oxygen Starbuck had.
Mm-hmm. And Gaeta sort of seems like he's assuming that the search will be called off. He's like, the tanker has no fuel. We need to bring them back. But then Adama sort of asked him, like, what is he assuming? And Gaeta said, you're assuming that it's because everything's hopeless, the air's out, so the search is over. Is that what you're trying to tell me, Mr. Gaeta? And the clock ticks over past 0, and he sort of says, you have your orders, and Gaeta goes and continues the search. So, and then at this point, Ty comes up and kind of like confronts. I say confronts, but it's not like an angry thing. But he is sort of stern with Adama and says the clock ran out. And Adama's like, the clock is a guess. She might have a reserve supply. And Ty's like, what? She happened to pack an extra bottle today. And he tries to sort of push against this, but then Adama relieves Ty, and Ty immediately just says, I stand, relieves, salutes, and walks out.
Yeah. I feel like this was the point at which somebody should have brought up, we don't even know if she's even on the moon in the first place, but we kind of already did that. But here was the note that I took at this point. Adama, do you want to have mutinies? Because this is how you get mutinies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think he lucks out by the way the episode ends on that point. But yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I also really do like here, though, again, just speaking to Ty, like when he gets relieved, Ty just immediately, like, I stand relieved and walks out. Like, it's military professionalism, which I like how it's not. This is the thing that I really like with all of this, like with Adama specifically, and this is kind of one of the big moments with it, is I kind of hinted at this before. You can clearly tell that Adama is personally wrapped up in this, and Edward James Olmos is playing it very well, but it's also like he never yells. There's a couple moments where his voice spikes, but he never yells. He never gets overtly emotional, even though he's acting emotionally. It's a well done performance for the character.
Yeah, he doesn't have that Captain Ahab moment of like, oh, you really are gone.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, which I like, and I like that is expressed through Apollo. Because it's like two sides of like, because you could sort of put it down to like, oh, stoic masculinity stuff. And it is that in terms of the character, but you could see the show just sort of like thinking that's what it is. But like, no, we also get Apollo being the like brash person and showing the emotionalism too. So I just like the two sides of the coin in that. So yeah.
Yep.
Anyways, we then cut to Starbuck is almost out of oxygen. So the timer was a guess, and it was not perfectly at 0, just to point out. It
was pretty damn close.
It was very damn close. I'm just making a joke, but yes, it was very damn close. But she does indeed find the oxygen straw from the Cylon and starts breathing it through the viscera tube.
Yeah.
That'll be real enjoyable.
Whew.
Yeah. This is actually not me being a nitpicker. It's me more asking a question if anyone in the audience knows this, because she like still kind of is speaking, like she's like sucking on the tube to get air and then speaking like with it in her mouth. And I'm like, is that how that would actually kind of work? If given like the air around her wouldn't be oxygen, like she does have air. Like, she does have some sort of atmosphere, I should say. But, like, would she be able to talk and breathe even with it just stuck in her mouth like that? I don't know. Hopefully
if she has a lung full of air, she can talk.
Well, I know that, but it's like, wouldn't that be poisonous to her? Like, this is me just sort of, like, asking, like, questions for somebody. It's like, would that be poisonous to her? I don't know. I'm just curious. So, I'm putting it to the listeners. Put it in the comments.
As long as on the inhale, she's wrapping her lips around this thing, it should be fine.
I guess so. But it's just one of those things I was thinking about. Listeners, let me know. Does this make some scientific sense? I don't know enough to be nitpicky about it. I'm just sort of more curious. Anyways, Roslin calls Adama and says, "I'm sorry. And Adama sort of just thinks she's apologizing for the loss of Starbuck. And Adama's like, nope, we're continuing the search. It's a military decision. She's like, I thought we ran out of oxygen half an hour ago. It's like, nope, we're still going. So.
Yep.
This is one thing I will be a slight nitpicker about, not for this scene necessarily, but for later, unless it showed that she fixed it. I didn't catch it. But she does seal up the cockpit of the Cylon Raider. Like, there's that hole in the side that she closes up with her shirt. And then she's able to fill up the whole compartment with oxygen, so she's just able to breathe. My only knock on that, the seal would be fine, but it's like, in space? Would that hold? I feel like it just gets her clothing would just get sucked out, depending on how the seal worked. Oh, that's my one knock on it. Anyways, this is, again, me being a nitpicking asshole. I'm sorry. Apologies, everybody.
Well, I think part of the thing was because like they showed her like adjusting her stance in there a few times. I think she's holding the edges of her shirt in place against the wall with her feet.
Oh, then that would make sense. Yeah, if we had that. So, okay, maybe.
So that it's not just like resting there.
Yeah. You can create a seal with on holes like that with just like without stapling in because the seal will work, but like with a piece of fabric like that, I don't know if that would work necessarily.
I don't know either, but like the impression I had was she wasn't just setting it and forgetting it.
Yeah. Well, anyways, we then cut to Apollo and Adama working together on the bridge, and then the president announces that she's coming on board, and Adama's sort of surprised by this. And he says has to have Ty meet her at the airlock to bring her on.
It's not even that the president announces what it is like, what is it? D is like, we have an arrival from
Colonial One.
He's like, why weren't we told? It's like, we weren't given a heads up. She's just here.
She's just showing up like a boss. Yep. Quite literally like a boss. But then Starbuck down on the planet, she sort of says, every ship has power, pitch, yaw, and roll. I got to find yours. She does find the guns. She pushes the roll and fires the gun.
First thing she tries, it just fires.
Yeah, she's like, don't touch that one. But then we cut to Ty bringing Roslin on board. And Ty sort of asks, like, are you going to order us to stop the search? And Roslin's like, I was hoping it wouldn't have to be. And Ty's like, it may take an order. And Roslin sort of says, what do I need to know? And Ty is sort of, after a moment of hesitation, says it's personal and tells her about Zach. We then cut to sort of the big scene of the episode, which is Adama and Apollo getting confronted by Roslin. But we start off the scene with just Adama and Apollo. And Adama says she's going to press, and Apollo says, I'm with you. So I liked that. I just like that beat because it's one of those like moments of like, yeah, we're a united team. And so one of the few times like father and son have been on the same page in this show.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
So I like that.
They're very united in this.
Yes. Which I liked. And I liked Roslin shows up as like, you know why I'm here. I'm not going to have to explain it. And I was like, it's a military decision. She's like, no, it's personal. And brings up Zach, and sort of like Apollo brings up, you don't know anything about my brother. And I love Roslin sort of pointing out, I was like, normally it would be sad that you two just couldn't get over Zach. But in this situation, you're putting pilots at risk in the fleet. And, Adama tries to argue like the Cylons won't be here for, at least one more day. But Roslin's like, 43% of our reserves, or she even has Ty says like 43% of our reserves have been expended. 1/3 of our fighters are out of commission. And Adama keeps pushing is like a recovery of pilots, a military matter. And then Roslin sort of puts it down as like, you're both officers and honorable men. You're putting civilization before your personal feelings. Then if you're doing that, then we're all doomed. Clear your head.
Because she has this whole thing is like, you two, like you are honorable men, you're intelligent men, and if you can't pull it enough together to realize how badly you're fucking up right now, then we are screwed.
So then Adama and Apollo look at each other, and Apollo calls off the search and says that we're leaving. So,
which I will note, she leaves the room before that happens, which I think is a savvy move on her part, because I think it would have been harder for them to admit that we need to stop if she was still there.
Yeah.
Like, I think I feel like she took the oxygen out of the room with her, and then the two of them are just left standing there with the very real reality of what she's just thrown in their face, and they're just like, yeah, okay.
It was very much giving I'm not mad, I'm disappointed energy, and like the shame that they had to feel that she needs, like, all right, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed, and then leaving the room and letting them like deal, like, oh man, yes, we're wrong. So
Mom's upset.
But yeah, I really loved this scene. And I love the different points too of like she makes like Adama says like it's a military matter and you know we're gonna be safe, but then she like sort of pulls out like no you're wasting fuel and everything, and like I just like the beats of the scene were just very, very strong, and I like the confrontation.
No, it's well played.
Mm-hmm. And Roslin just continues to be awesome. I do. Yeah, she's great. Very savvy politician. Let's put it that way. And weirdly, that's a not derogatory comment in this context. So, like,
statecraft and diplomacy are skills. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't have to be a corrupt dickhead to be good at those things, but it helps.
Yes, very much so. Anyways, we cut to Starbuck saying, either this will work or it doesn't. She's figured out the ship and she flies into space. With the Raider. So.
Yep.
We then cut to Apollo and Adama, sort of coming up on the bridge as they're about to, announce that they're going to jump, but they have a private little, talk beforehand. And I love, I love this sort of, this exchange. There's a couple different things. Like Apollo first says, I think we have come to terms with Zach, and Adama says, I have. Again, just showcasing the two different, like Apollo being like, I think we have, and Adama's like, I have, definitely have. Just the two different personalities.
Did he say I have? I could have sworn he said I haven't.
I thought he said I have, but maybe he did say I haven't.
Keep going. I'm gonna check that.
Double check that. Like maybe he did say I haven't. Either one still showcases his personality in an interesting like declarative way. But yeah. I thought he said I have.
I could have sworn he said I haven't. The reason being that like he only recently learned how she tied into what happened to Zach.
Mm-hmm.
So, like...
Yeah, I mean, either answer would make sense for him. I thought he said I have, but maybe I misheard it. So...
Well, you keep going. I'm going to check it.
Anyways, Apollo then sort of, like, stops and says, why did you do this? Why did we do this for Kara, for Zach? And Adama sort of says she's family. Sometimes you break the rules for family. And Apollo asks if it was me. Adama says, you don't have to ask that. And Apollo says, you sure? And Adama says, if it were you, we'd never leave. Which is a beat that I really, really enjoyed. So.
Yeah.
Just showcasing that Adama still really loves Apollo, even though they have that tense relationship. And Apollo's not even sure about where they stand necessarily, but Adama's very clear on that point. So a good moment of emotional vulnerability from Adama there.
It's a good solid scene with a couple of uptight, buttoned up people having to find ways to express their emotions.
Then just express your emotions, God damn it.
And he said, I haven't.
He did say I haven't. Okay.
He did.
Cool. Well, thank you for the catch. But yes, I haven't. But again, still showcases what I was really interested in, which is like he's very like to the point. It's like I definitely have, like, it's just one of those like Lee's like I'm unsure. Like Lee has his statements more like I'm not sure, and Adama's like nope, I know. So
nope. The point still stands. I just had to prove you wrong.
Yeah, I get it. You're an asshole, but you're my asshole. Uh-huh.
I was debating. I'll let it go.
She almost gave you a point, listeners. All right. Ty resumes his duties, and they're about to jump to the next star system. And I also like this little beat here where Adama says, or I think it's Apollo or Adama, I forget who it says, but do you want us to take you back to Colonial 1? And she says, no, I want to see how the professionals do it. Which, like, the way she plays it, it could have come across as, like, a snide thing to them, but no, she's, like, seeming to reaffirm it, like, I still believe you're professionals, for doing this. Yeah. Like, it felt very empathetic, which I liked. The jump clock is, starting to run, but then they get a radar, or DRADIS contact, I should say, their word for radar. And they hold the count, and a Cylon Raider's coming at them. Obviously, we know it's Starbuck. We do cut over to her, and they sort of declare action stations and launch the Vipers over on the Galactica. She's like, I hope you look before you shoot, Starbuck says. The only 2 Vipers that they can send out right now are Hot Dog and Apollo, but Hot Dog's launch is aborted. So Apollo's the only one that goes out. Lucky. But yeah, they sort of like are sort of on Adama, sort of like, well, it's only one ship, so it might be a Vanguard for a base fleet, but we have to take it out regardless. Apollo starts shooting at Starbuck, but Starbuck is able to sort of avoid him and actually get past him and starts flying in formation with him. And he looks up and he realizes that she has written the word Starbuck on the wings of the Raptor, and that's how they
on the underside. Yeah, and actually, I really, really love his reaction, like the degree of joy and relief that he expresses. It sells the moment really well. It sells a moment that I knew was going to happen and still made me smile. I'm like, oh, nice.
No, it was very well played, and like seeing the relief on the bridge as well, like everyone cheering when they learned that it's her. And even like again, Roslin being relieved too, just like showcasing like, oh, she's glad as well. You know, it was very all very well played by everybody. Yep. So then we cut to Chief Tyrrell bringing the Cylon Raider into the Galactica. So now, and Tyrrell even says, now your ass belongs to me. So they do have a Cylon Raider to start studying.
He's got himself a new toy.
But then Apollo tells Starbuck, you smell like a latrine. But then they go to Adama visiting Starbuck.
You missed her response to that.
Oh, yes.
You want to give me a bath?
Yep. Because we got to have our
subtle.
The tension is palpable here.
I bet you in general Zach is going to be mentioned less and less, because otherwise, like, you might as well have her look at him and go, hey, I used to bang your brother.
And I got to
get you hot? Do you want your brother's sloppy seconds?
Wow. Anyways, we then cut to Adama going to visit Starbuck in sickbay.
Just to be clear, people, I don't actually ascribe to the notion of sloppy seconds. It's a stupid misogynistic concept. I'm just saying that, like, in the same episode that we've had it re-emphasized, the connection with Zach, and we know what her deal was, like, her flirting with him feels weird.
Yeah. Also, I'm sloppy seconds. I don't know what you're talking about. It's fine.
Well, that's your nickname. I didn't think we were going to say that one on air, but okay.
Anyways, for the third time, Adama goes to visit Starbuck in the sick bay. We learned that her knee, supposedly will be fine. And Adama says, you did good. And he goes to, sort of like, he kind of like puts his head on her, forehead. It looks like he kisses her, but then he says something. So it was like kind of weird. But at that moment, it's acted really well, because you can see that Starbuck, kind of breaks down for a quick second there and nearly cries. Then when he pulls away, she's right back to kind of like her, like,
unflappable.
Yeah, unflappable personality. And he says, "Is there anything I could do for you?" And she says, "A stogie would be nice." And he already knew that she was going to ask for one, so he gives her one. He says, "It's my last one, so enjoy." Sort of again showing the father-daughter bond there.
Yep.
So
and reiterating in a small way the scarcity of resources.
I love this last little bit. I mean, it kind of puts a resolution on what happened last episode of, like, Adama being angry at her for the Zach stuff, and he's sort of reiterating here, like, no, he not even in so many words, but forgives her, and like that's what that beat where she almost cries is about. It's just, again, very well acted. The chemistry between these two is very, very well done. And especially with that, like, he knows her so well, he knew that she was going to ask for a cigar. So yeah, I just that it's a very good way to end the episode and resolve a lot of the beats of this. So Yep, that is it for the episode. But before we get to our full thoughts on the episode, it is time for spoiler minute. So for the next 60 seconds, I am going to talk spoilers about the future of the show. So if you do not want spoilers yourself, you'll jump ahead 60 seconds, just like Vera is going to do in real time by taking off her headphones. So Vera, give me 60 seconds on the clock.
And go.
All right, so the only major thing that I want to talk about here is the Cylon Raider. You'll have to remind me, but if I recall, we do know that the final 5 Cylons were from the original Earth. Not the Earth that we'll get to at the end of the series. And they found the Cylons at war with humanity, with the other tribes. And so they stopped that by promising the Cylons that they would give them human bodies, teach them how to make themselves, get bodies. Now, what I don't remember was the Cylon Raider one of the Final Five's experiments to do that? Or was it one of the original Cylon Centurions that made it? If I recall, and I don't remember exactly, if I had a guess and if I recall correctly, the Cylon Raider was one of the early experiments by the original, the Cylons that were at war with humanity, not the Final Five. So I think that's just an interesting little tidbit on the timeline. All right. Anyways, Vera, what did you think of the episode?
It's pretty good. It's pretty solid for the sort of showing the extremes that people are willing to go to, No Man Left Behind sort of story. Mm-hmm. I like that they slip in some decent world building with the Cylons, with just the idea that they have these organic components. And again, if I hadn't seen Hilo blow a massive hole in a Centurion Cylon earlier, I would have been wondering, wait, are those ones goopy inside too? I know they're not, but then it makes me wonder, okay, what gets organic components and why? So it's layering in some interesting questions, and you get body horror as a bonus. So yeah, no, it's pretty solid.
Yeah, the only thing I would poke you on, I'm gonna try and make sure I don't poke you in an overt direction, just more of a prompt. The question that I would give is, we know the Centurions, which seem to there's the newer Centurions, but we know the Centurions are older in terms of models, and we know that there's the human-looking Cylons. So what does that make the Raider? Is an interesting question. That's all I will prompt.
So my main thing, my inclination right now is that the organic components are to better enable proper autonomy and independent thought. Because my gut instinct is that the Centurions are just straight up machines. They do what they are programmed for. They can't improvise. If it is outside the scope of its programming, it just doesn't know what to do. The way that any standard machine or computer program is. If you do something that it doesn't know what to do with, it either shuts down or it pretends like that didn't happen because it doesn't know what to do with it. So one of the things that in general organic, especially brains, is way better at is extrapolation and improvisation. It's okay, this is new, but it's real similar to all this other stuff. So based off that, here's what I will decide to do, which is something that straight up machine code can't do. Mm-hmm. If you didn't account for it in programming, it can't do it. So my gut instinct is that part of the reason for the organic components is for anything where it is more helpful for them to have a level of independent thought and autonomy, as opposed to we just want you to follow orders and that's it.
Interesting. I won't confirm or deny anything, but that's an interesting take.
Okay.
So yeah, my overall thoughts, I forgot where I went before I prompted that. Actually, I was just prompting you. Yeah, I agree. I really like this episode. I think for me, what sells it is just there's really good acting on Adama, Apollo, Roslin, and Starbuck's part, and all of those parts, but especially Adama and Apollo, I think, get a real showcase this episode. And I also really like that it kind of breaks the mold a little bit. It is a sort of we'll go and find our man sort of thing. But it goes a little bit further by showcasing we don't find her before she would have died. sort of moment. Like, you would think like, oh, most of these stories will be like, well, find her right at the last moment and that'll be the stress. But like, no, the timer ticks over and we keep going. And I like that it's sort of an interesting twist on this kind of formula and what it reveals about Adama and Apollo. Because, up until this point, Adama has been shown to be a fairly... he can get a little hot, get a little defensive, I guess, when it comes to military matters. But overall, seemed a fairly reasonable guy. And this is like a moment where we get to really see emotion dictating his decisions, which is something we haven't really seen too much of yet, which I really liked as an exploration, too. So, like, I just like the twist in the formula and the exploration of a side of a character that we haven't gotten yet. So, yeah. Anything else, Vera?
Don't think so.
Alrighty then. With that said, stuff time.
Stuff! You can look for my stuff by looking for Council of Geeks. Patreon pays the bills. Main thing that funds is the Council of Geeks YouTube channel. New videos every single Saturday. And also that is where my reviews for the latest episodes of Doctor Who will be going up as those begin airing. You can also check out Break Room of Geeks, which might very well be where you are listening to this right now. But if you're not, that is also a channel where I upload whatever I have, my thoughts on whatever I have watched, read, listened to, or played lately. That's also now where I am streaming video games on Wednesdays and Fridays because I'm not on Twitch anymore. And you can also find Council of Geeks on Blue Sky. That is the geeky stuff. If you prefer the spicy stuff,
you can look for Vera Wilde. Wilde is spelled W-Y-L-D-E. And you will find content on YouTube. Where I have started looking at and reviewing.
And you can find me at Jesse Gender on YouTube. That's where we're doing my video essay style stuff. By the time you're listening to this, most certainly my video on stories that fascism fears most is out, so you can check that out. Very proud of that video. I'll have a few more videos coming out in April as well, or at least one more short video coming out in April as well. I have a secondary channel called Jesse Gender After Dark, where I'll be also doing news, reviews, reactions. I will be reviewing Daredevil Born Again, Star Wars Andor, Doctor Who. I think those are the three major ones that I'll be reviewing. I think there's still one other one, that outstanding one, but those are the three ones I'm definitely going to be reviewing, so check that out there. I am on Blue Sky, which is the social media platform that I'm pretty much the only one that I'm exclusively on. I'm also on Nebula, which is the streaming service that has my movie Identity, so check that out. And I am also on Patreon, which helps pay my bills, especially during the big projects that I'm going to be working on, which I actually am going to be able to announce soon. In fact, they may be announced officially by the time you hear this. We'll see. But I have big projects coming up.
We're not going to risk it just in case it hasn't yet.
Just in case. I think I know where it's going to happen. But yes, that's about all I'll say for that. But yes, Patreon will help me pay the bills because, YouTube will be a little bit more sporadic just because I'll be busy. So if you can support me over on Patreon, that really does help me out. With all that said, I hope you are all doing well. Anything else, Vera?
Nah.
All right, everyone, live long and prosper.
Be seeing you.